Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Welcome in. Welcome to the show. I always feel like I'm sliding down right at the start of this. So I always feel like I got to pick myself up. How's it going? Guerrilla Sports off ice. Jesse Montaño. That's Meghan Angley right over there. Meghan, the sun is out. It is not bitterly cold. How are you doing today?
Doing really good. It's an Avs game day. The sun is out. Serotonin is in my body.
Woo! All right. I will never turn my nose up at some serotonin. I'll tell you that for sure. I'm going to stop just shy of saying it was an exciting day at morning skate. I think there were some interesting developments. We're going to get into the Gabe Landeskog conversation. I put that out thinking that people were going to rejoice. Gabe Landeskog back on the ice. We hadn't seen him for months. We talked about how we hadn't seen him. There was reports of a setback. I had even said, "Oh, this verbiage doesn't sound great." We see Gabe Landeskog on the ice, and Meghan, the people are pissed that Gabe Landeskog is out there looking the way he does. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about what Jared Bednar talked with us yesterday about Nichushkin and just having him back around. We are days away. We're going to preview this game here tonight a little bit. But my first question for you, Meghan, is how frustrating is it that the NHL has a thrilling game going on right now that's about to go to overtime that you probably didn't even know about?
I saw, is it the Buffalo game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some injuries coming out of that one too.
Yeah.
I don't love it because I'd like to consume hockey all the time and I can't right now.
The NHL, I don't know why. Wow. 7-5, a combined grand total between both teams of 41 shots on goal.
Sheesh.
My goodness. Buffalo scores 5 times on 18 shots. Montreal 7 times on 23 shots. Yikes. I just don't get why they do this, Meghan. This is the third time we are what? For some of these teams, anywhere between 12 and 14 games in, depending on what team you're looking at. 3 times already, there have been games that have been played during the day that the NHL is just like not told anyone about. It drives me crazy.
It's such a great sport and we want to see the game grow, but it feels like opportunities that should be a layup to promote it are just not taken advantage of. It's like they're doing the most to shrink the game. I'm just kidding. I don't mean that.
But you know what does drive me bananas is I swear to God, I was thinking about this morning. The NHL does the Thanksgiving game the day after Thanksgiving. It's referred to as it's like the Discover Card Thanksgiving Classic. And it's done the day after Thanksgiving.
So they don't want to compete with football.
Right. But it's like, okay, cool. Don't call it the Thanksgiving Classic. Like they just do weird stuff with the way they promote things. This is a weird rant to start the pod on, but Buffalo and Montreal were trading goals. It was 5-5 in the third period. And I was like, one, why are you doing this on Veterans Day that I think is acknowledged by a lot of businesses and companies, but not all of them? I just don't like, they won't get out of their own way sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about what we saw on the ice this morning. Meghan, do you want to start with the guys that are playing or the guys that aren't playing tonight that you want to talk about?
I think the guys who are playing is actually the shorter discussion because
Perfect.
It's the same lineup.
Same lineup. Alexander Georgiev going back in net. Your thoughts on Georgie? 3 straight starts.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll extend this into the broader conversation with Kakinen now on waivers, but it's a huge vote of confidence from Bednar, and I think that they probably wanted that to be the end result, to go with the guy that they pay to be their starter to sort of emerge as the guy they can trust there. I think it's been hard in the context of the games Georgiev has been in. He's played individually very well, haven't necessarily come away with wins through all of them. Great Carolina game, and I think these last few starts on the whole has provided them the opportunity to win where they otherwise might not have done enough in front of him to deserve it through the entirety of the game. I think, there were moments where Georgiev played better than the team in front of him was and gave them a chance to win, and this is the reward. So big saves at big moments and a little more consistency from him. And if JJ were here, he was the one who first brought up how Georgiev looked like a goaltender whose confidence was just completely shattered, and he played like it. He was overcompensating and a little bit scrambly, and that over these last few has looked so much calmer and has been in better position as a result of this to just at least absorb pucks. It's not necessarily a clean slate save being gloved down every single time,
Right.
but he's seeing the puck better than he was. I love to see it distance in addition to some of those high danger chances at the net front. And so I've liked it. I have a little bit of trepidation still around Georgiev because we've seen highs and lows with him before. We've seen great Georgiev games. So I think that the difficult position the Avs are in all of this is Nichushkin is coming back this Friday.
Yeah.
And we're still a little uncertain on the exact timing of Drouin and Wood. But that's soon. That's coming soon. They had to make a decision in the immediate, and they've been presented with information that at least supports why they're going back to Georgiev. I think it's also important to continue building his confidence, just given the type of goaltender he is. It's very important to him.
I can't remember if it was last week or maybe it was 2 weeks ago at this point. I thought you asked such a great question to Jared Bednar after practice about like balancing three different goalies who needed three different things. You had a guy who you're trying to build up confidence, a guy you're trying to, in Annunen, you're trying to build up as a young goaltender, as a rookie, prove, hey, you can hang at this level. Kähkönen kind of coming in to, give you a boost. I thought it was a great question of like, how do you manage this? And you're right. Like Georgiev is someone that needs starts, is someone who likes to be playing regularly. And it was part of the reason why it was a little bit concerning when he wasn't playing, because it was like, man, is this the type of goaltender that can bounce back if he's not playing? Third straight start. I think he's been really good the last two games. Yes, he gives up 4 against Carolina. The final numbers just on a sheet of paper don't look overwhelmingly great. But I thought he was really, really strong. You were the one who made the comment a couple games ago of like, his rebounds are all over the place. Like he doesn't look settled on any shot, everything. And you and I have made sure to be commenting as we've watched these last 2 games together. Boom, there's a puck that he's eating. There's one that he's tracking really well. There's one, no rebound, getting out square, difficult shot, and he swallows it up into his stomach. Like he looks better. He's not just getting the result. I guess he didn't get the result against Winnipeg, but like, you're not just saying, oh yeah, he was good enough to keep his team in it. Like the process is good for Georgiev right now. We talked to Nikita Prishapov this morning, who, man, I thought that was a great interview. I highly encourage you to go watch it. If you haven't already, we're going to circle back to Kaapo Kähkönen when we talk about guys who aren't playing tonight, because I do think there's interesting conversation there about, did they give him a fair look? We'll get into all that. Prishapov made the comment of like, we're like, how are you settling in? And he goes, I'm sitting next to Nathan McKinnon because his stall is right next to Nate's in the room, saying that like, I'm just trying to keep up. Logan O'Connor told him, don't stop moving your feet. Even if you're in an area where you don't feel like you need to be moving your feet, move your feet. Nate and Kale, he said, came over and told him before his first game, don't worry, relax. You're good. I thought it was great to talk to Prishapov. You and I have mentioned a couple times already, and we talked about him, I believe, right at the end of last week when he was sent back down to the American League before being called right back up, saying that, hey, look, if a guy is healthy and he is not coming back up right away, what an impression that this kid just made. What a debut. And I think has rocketed near the top of your list of top prospects in this organization, which is incredibly impressive given that he's a 7th round pick from 3 months ago?
20 years old. It's not unheard of to have such a young player find some success at the NHL level. You just usually see it from bona fide superstars making that transition. And that's, I think, what ultimately impresses me about Prishapov is he had very few pro games under his belt, just a handful of them with the Eagles prior to this call-up. And so he's not even been in the organization, exposed to their systems for all that long. And I like the point about Bednar as a coach provides a lot of information to his players in English. And so some of the challenge too has been absorbing that information as a second language to him. And he speaks great English, but I think that is an important challenge to consider too for Prishapov, and why it makes him being able to excel at this level with the Avs identity such a credit to who he is as a player. I think this is the type of player that he has been and why he was targeted by the Avs organization. And it's been such a great fit because he just gets what Bednar needs out of him. And that is a player that's willing to be loud, but responsible on both sides of the puck. I think that's what's rewarded him the most and has maybe been such a strength of his game, because the speed to be able to defend well at this level with that speed adjustment is so impressive to me. He has just a very responsible hockey mind, and I think that's also what's rewarding him, because the work ethic and the motor is completely there. You know, in now 2 interviews, he's talked about the advice that he's been given is to just never stop moving his feet. And he's listening to it, that he executes. I think that is the other thing that helps him to stick in the NHL. And even, you know, kind of the fourth line has been a little bit of a cluster. He stands out, though, as a player who looks like he belongs there more regularly. I don't know, as bodies start coming back into the lineup, I think we're going to have a conversation around Kiviranta, Kelly, Prishapov, Ivan. Where do these players fit in this Avs lineup? Because you like different things about each of them. Some of them have vastly more NHL experience, but he is, to your point, done a lot to make such a strong case for him in the prospect pipeline and where he'll be at in a call-up list in the future, because there are players like Poland, now Foudy is returned to health, Alauson's still kicking around the Eagles. I think it is going to be interesting because Prishapov took this opportunity and has done so much more with it than some of those other players have.
Well, and not to get carried away, because their roles are very different, but like, I'm looking at a guy like Cal Ritchie, who in 7 NHL games, you know, it was pretty easy to sit there and go, hey, we see it, right? We see the upside. He's not there yet. I'm with you, Meghan. I think there are 15 NHL teams that if you just right now, if Prishapov was just given to 15 NHL teams after what he's done in the last 4 games, 5 games, he'd be sticking around for a while. Like, this would not be a player based on what he's done on the ice at the NHL level. There's probably about 15 teams in the NHL right now that would not be quick to return him to the American League. And that's the part that I think is interesting in the point that you make of like how quickly he's looked comfortable. And I know he said today, like, I'm still just trying to hang on. Like, I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm trying to get caught up. Well, you would have fooled me. Like, he looks calm. He looks like he's playing like he belongs. And it was great to chat with him this morning. I believe Evan talked with him. Evan Rowell from the Gazette talked to him before his first game. But I think this is the first time really anyone's talked to him, you know, extended since then. And I said it was great to get his insight. And that's another player that's going tonight that is, you know, found a way to make, despite all the injuries, some noise and help keep the Avs heads above water.
Great back checker, unafraid to go toe-to-toe with men and NHLers coming from the Q too. That confidence, I think, has served him well. And going back to the rookie tournament where he looked maybe a little bit raw, but you saw the obvious tools that he was working with. That's the other thing I want to give him credit for, is not to draw a direct parallel to Cal Ritchie, but for him to make these adjustments to the NHL speed as quickly as he has is also incredibly impressive from him. And I think hearing positive feedbacks from his teammates, like Akil Makar, who he's now said twice in interviews as being someone that basically is like, hey, you did good. You helped our team. It's meant a lot to him. And I think that's just really wholesome.
Yeah. Wholesome was definitely a lot of that conversation today, where it was just nice because, you know, we talked to so many guys and especially, you know, once they've been in the league and it kind of becomes, you know, business as usual and we're here to do a job and we've got, you know, we got a game to play. We've got something to prepare for. some of that gets kind of lost, but it was fun. It was wholesome. I think to talk to a player today who, from my standpoint, is having outstanding impacts within his role on the organization, on the NHL roster, and to be able to talk to him and have someone be, not that other guys aren't realistic, but someone to be like, I'm sitting next to Nathan MacKinnon. This is pretty wild. I was playing in the queue a couple months ago, happy to hear my name called the last day of the draft. And now I've had a locker room stall next to Nathan MacKinnon for 5 straight NHL games. What is happening? And I just thought it was fun to have someone be looking at it through that lens. Cause I feel like the average fan, the average, consumer of this game would probably be thinking something along the same lines if they were in Prushepov's situation.
Absolutely. For what it's worth, I did talk to him in between Evan and this interview.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
And he was by Kovalenko's stall, and it was hard because Kovalenko kept interrupting and being silly.
Yes.
But he's by Ellerslie and Kovalenko in the practice facility. I think those are 2 great guys for him to be seated by.
Yes, you're totally right. And we do have that on the Girl Sports Twitter page from just last week.
I don't even know if that one made it up, to be honest with you.
It definitely did.
Cool.
Yep, it definitely did. Because I remember listening to it and listening for Covey, because you came over right after. You were like, it was a good interview, but Covey kept talking over.
He just kept, I don't know, like just silliness. It's very cute.
But so I remember I went and listened. Anything else on tonight, Megan? Again, no real developments for what we're going to see tonight. Expectations against a Nashville team, anything like that, or you're just going to wait to see what happens here tonight?
Well, I think that the Nashville game on the road earlier this month, the Avs deserved a little bit of a better fate. You see another one, score final 5-2. Just thought they did a lot more things in that game to be rewarded. And it's felt like the hockey now has been trending towards getting a little bit more payoff for the process. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important for them to sort of reclaim, at least level the series between this team that has come out the gate struggling. This is a team that they have all the business winning against. Mm-hmm. And it's also important for them to start stacking together wins. So there's significance in it being Nashville, but also just generally starting to string together some wins now that I kind of have high expectation from the Avs tonight. Georgiev's going in net. Now with Kakinen on waivers, there's this added boost of confidence, but also pressure for Georgiev to continue trending in that direction in the net, but also then the team that's been playing in front of him. The turnaround from that second period in the Carolina game, it is necessary that that's sort of the starting point for this group. And at the very least, they get back to that with ease within tonight's contest, because this is a Nashville group that has struggled with looking cohesive, playing, with unity. And I think the Avs still, that was sort of my messaging before earlier in the month, need to leverage that against them.
It's not that this is necessarily a team that the Avs should be, the roster isn't terrible, but I agree. Like, this is a team that you need to jump all over. They're dealing with it. They're going through it here to start the season. And you need to exploit that a little bit. Let's shift gears to guys who aren't playing for the Colorado Avalanche tonight. Kaapo Kähkönen officially on waivers. You and I talked about this being a possibility. I believe it was on Friday, Megan, that we were getting to that time where the Avs were going to have to make this decision. Are you a little surprised he didn't get one more game before this?
I am, but we knew that the runway for making the goaltender decision, with so many returns expected at the end of this week, at least with Val Nichushkin, was getting short. We knew that the ideal timeline that we would have liked to see, the front office I'm sure would have liked to have, is longer than that. But I think realistically, there just wasn't another opportunity for Kähkönen to get a start. I think he deserved one. I think that's a clear feeling I have in all of this. The other part of it too is I think the immigration delays really at least robbed one more start from him. I think he was owed one. I just don't think the Avs could afford to provide it to him. And so I think this is less a reflection of Kähkönen too. We never really saw what he was made of, but I guess it's the room you want to be in where the guy you pay to be your starter starts to look like one again. And the guy who's his backup is vying for that job too, just in terms of performance and wins. If you're measuring in those things, Justus Anninen's right there too. So I don't necessarily disagree with the decision based on the information that we have. I just wish they had a little more time to get a little more information.
What did you think of Kakkonen in his one start? Because it was hard because there was an insane start to the game.
Yeah, difficult first half, first period, extremely challenging. And then even a little bit to start that second, but then really settled into the crease after that against a good Tampa Bay team that is hot right now. So that's where I feel conflicted. I like the goaltender that closed out that game. I thought he looked pretty settled in, and I would have liked to see a little bit more. But again, hard to really argue against it with what Annunen and Georgiev have done lately as well.
Yeah. Can you throw up the most recent comment there? I haven't listened to 32 Thoughts today. New episode came out. Megan, are you aware of any of this? This morning this morning is the third time Friedman has mentioned Mackenzie Blackwood possibly going to the Avs on 32 Thoughts. Again, I haven't heard that. Elliot Friedman I love Elliot. He's extremely plugged in. So when he says something, it's usually because he's hearing it from somewhere. I haven't heard that, Megan. You and I discussed Mackenzie Blackwood last week, saying totally get it. Totally where people are coming from on it. We were talking about John Gibson right before, and we were like, if you're going to split hairs on John Gibson, Mackenzie Blackwood hasn't been very good in recent years either. I guess 1, have you heard any of these rumblings? 2, just what would be your thoughts on something like that?
I haven't heard it from any sort of source, if you will. I've seen the rumblings, but it's more so like in the depths of the hockey forum boards that I see this name alongside Gibson's as well, still coming up. With Blackwood, where I think that there's a possibility of real interest is going back to last year around the deadline when Annunen was sick at morning skate. I actually think that was a part of the rumblings then. Mm-hmm. And I think it goes
Blackwood.
back. Yeah. That's super, but don't quote me on it. And what I recall too is he's played well specifically against the Avs. So the Avs' view of him has been pretty positive. And he also just posted a 44 save shutout. So I think that there's some recency in how well he's playing and the fact that this is a name that I think has been more loosely linked to them in the recent past. I don't think it's totally pulled out of thin air in the same way that Askarov, I think generated real interest as well at one point. But I don't know how much fire there is behind this smoke. I do think it's interesting, maybe something the Avs are keeping in their back pocket. And in moving on from Kakkonen, at least through the waiver wire, right? Like if he clears waivers, goes to Loveland, he's still an option for the Avs in the immediate future as well. Right. So I think that's important to sort of include in the discussion. But I do think that if they come closer to the deadline that they are not happy with their goaltending options, I do absolutely see them getting more aggressive. And these are the types of options that I think they're keeping an eye on right now for consideration in the future as sort of a backup plan to more aggressively treat this if it's necessary.
We've mentioned that if the Avs were to go get involved in the goalie market, that there's really not a ton of options. Mackenzie Blackwood is one of the few that the team he's playing for, like you said, some of the recent performances, I can see why that'd be a name that would be out there. Let's move on. Anything else on Kakkonen for you, Megan?
No, it's more so Georgiev. I just wanted to talk about how it felt like he was obviously pretty defeated, pretty demoralized to start this year. And we know in talking to Bednar in the past that UC Parkala really heads up a lot of the one-on-one guidance that goes between games to help get the goalie's head right. And I think with Georgiev to start this year, they approached it a little bit differently. And if you'd ask Georgiev what he would have wanted, he probably would have said more starts, just ride through it, I think bringing in Kakkonen was a necessary way to get more out of Georgiev that he probably wouldn't have asked for himself. And so I think the Avs took sort of an unconventional path to getting the most out of Georgiev, knowing this is actually what's best for him. And we need to apply a little bit of pressure to see what this goaltender is really made of. And I just wanted to shout that out a little bit, draw attention to it. I feel for Kakkonen. Again, don't really think this has very much to do with him at the end of the day. I think this has a lot to do with Georgiev and bringing out the best in him in a way that I don't think he would have wanted or asked for, but needed.
Well, and you make a good point too about you also wonder if he wasn't so delayed by the immigration process, if he would have gotten to town when things were a little bit more fresh and the Avs were entrenched right in the middle of their goalie struggles, maybe Kakkonen gets a couple extra games. But by the time he got to town, Annunen had gone on a little bit of a run there. You had to get Georgiev in. He played well, and it just kind of like the opportunity almost kind of disappeared for Kakkonen before it even started.
Absolutely. I feel a sympathy for him as a goaltender, and
just as a player.
I think, too, this is an understated part in Georgiev not only being able to string together some better performances, that mental pressure had to be maybe the worst of his career, to have Annunen coming in and playing extremely well, stringing together wins. Then Kakkonen is just this intriguing option waiting in the balance. The pressure for him to be better was so dire. For him to work through that and gradually get better, I think is really important to take note of.
Well, and not only that, but for the first time, Meghan, we heard it verbally that he had kind of lost that undisputed, he's the starter mentality from the organization. How many times, not that it was, it wasn't anything crazy, but like several times, Jared Bednar told us, Georgie's the number one. Georgie's the number one. He's still our number one. He's our guy. It didn't matter if it was when Francouz was here. Didn't matter if it was when Prosvetov is here. Prashepov is all that would come to my mind. When Prosvetov was here, when Annunen was here, if backups were playing well, playing poorly, if they were injured, if they were healthy, if Georgiev started too much, hadn't started enough, no matter what, Georgiev was our starter. Georgie's our starter. Amidst everything you're talking about, that suddenly wasn't the case anymore. It's we're playing whoever we think is best. We're not naming a starter multiple days in advance. We're naming a starter the day before. That's it. That had to add to what he was likely feeling and the pressure that was starting to close in on him a little bit. So I'm with you. I think him being able to climb out of that was important, not just for Georgiev this season with a starting job, not just for the Avalanche and having a goaltender, but for Georgie's NHL career. He needs a contract after this year. He needed to show he could do that.
Absolutely. And for what it's worth, do you think Kakkonen clears waivers?
No, because if you're Winnipeg, why wouldn't you put in a claim?
Yeah, it's an easy way to just give their AHL team some depth now,
right.
without incident, without issue.
Right.
I still think there's a good goaltender there that a few teams would be interested in taking a chance on. Avs just didn't have enough time
right.
to really complete the experiment.
Well, and I told you as we were walking out, that I hope he clears waivers. I'm going to take care of that. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. All right.
Don't worry.
Are you good?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right.
As long as he doesn't jump.
Yeah. Jesus.
There's a spider in case anyone's wondering. He's like a quarter size.
He's a bigger size than I'm comfortable with.
Right, like he's not the tiniest
as an anti-spider
I've ever
person,
seen.
Right there.
Oh my god!
See, that was quite the. Oh my gosh!
Sorry.
No, that was.
There's been a murder.
That was less distracting. Wow, a lot of stuff came out of that.
Oh, I feel a little bad.
All right. Woo! Didn't he though? Didn't he have to? That it startled me, and I was afraid that it was going to keep coming this way and then startle you. Where do you fall on spiders? I'm pretty. The way they move just really upsets me.
I'm actually okay with spiders, but here's the beef I have. I'm really prone to bug bites in general, not just mosquitoes, but
Interesting.
animals or bugs that bite usually find me. And so there have been times, I remember in the pandemic, there was a spider in my room, and I had this weird sense of like, we're all going through it right now. I'm not going to kick him out into the streets,
We're all going
out
through
into
it.
the pandemic. I'm not putting him out on the street. So I let him hang around. I didn't kill him. And I started waking up with bites. And that's when it got personal. Like, buddy, we had an agreement.
Yeah, I let you stay.
Yeah. So I have
We're all
mixed
going through
I had
it.
mixed
Oh,
feelings
God.
with the spider.
Oh, Megan, that may be my favorite thing that you've ever said to me. I didn't want to kill this spider during the pandemic because we were all going through it.
It went several
That's
days,
amazing.
and I was like, all right, I can't ignore this anymore.
Yeah. I'm not a spider guy at all. Okay. A couple other guys that aren't playing tonight. Miles Wood, Jonathan Drouin. We don't have a lot of updates on them. Man, whatever happened to Jonathan Drouin must have really, really, really hurt. Still out there in the red non-contact.
Yeah, and I think the interesting language around his injury has been he will come back once he's not feeling so sore anymore. So he's hurting, to some extent. And I don't think that it's something that will get worse if he plays. It's just he's in some amount of pain. So it's been tough. I know people want updates on Drouin, and it's a tricky one because it's really down to him personally feeling a little bit better.
Right.
And guess we're just not there yet. It feels like we're super close, but he has to give that green light. And I know it's been frustrating to be on the brink of his return now in this day-to-day status that has endured weeks. It's been a bit of a weird timeline for his injury.
It's been really weird. And you do wonder if there's a level of it that's just like, if it was playoffs, he'd be playing, but we're just, taking it easy right now. I don't know. Miles Wood also looks like he's trending to come back soon-ish. He's buzzing around out there. I think reinforcements are on the way from those two in particular. Do you want to talk Gabe or Val first?
Your choice.
Let's go Val, because we know he's coming back, and we got a comment in the chat about it. What's the one from Vaguely Star over there about the wolf spider? So I'm sure this is going to upset me. I had a wolf spider, the diameter of a roll of paper towels. Oh my goodness. Climbing up the wall in my living room while I was watching hockey in the dark. Did you move out? I'd just move out.
Did you move out?
I would just leave. The diameter of a paper towel roll.
Like, I'm assuming the cardboard insert,
right? That's
not the whole of the roll.
That would be that. I would just leave.
I lived in Okinawa with banana spiders. They're huge. Maybe that's where I've been desensitized to spiders.
Those and then those like camel spiders that
I don't think I'd like those.
Yeah. Those ones, like I think when you get that big, they just eat meat.
Ugh.
Yeah, very upsetting. Okay. Val Nichushkin coming back on Friday. Let's go ahead and throw up the comment there from FU 2006, our guy who hates 2006. From what you can see at Skate, how has the team been with Val? Do you feel like they're welcoming him back? I do. I definitely do. We talked to Jared Bednar yesterday about just that. Bedsy, you can tell that they're ready for him to be back so that they don't have to keep answering questions about it. But he said that it's been good and that the guys are excited to have him back around. And I haven't necessarily seen guys over there constantly, smacking him on the butt and hitting his helmet, but he's also never really been a guy like that in general.
No, like right now, I don't see any of that really happening. The mood does still feel light, though, around the whole team. So I haven't seen a running chest bump in our view, but I also imagine that there's more pleasantries before we even get in the locker room, especially since our time in the locker room doesn't overlap much with Val's at this point.
Yep.
So we're not getting to see some of that interaction. But on the ice, it seems really positive.
It does. It seems positive. He was in the room a couple nights ago after the game when Lecky gave the hat and things like that. Or at least I think that was what I saw. So, I think he's like back around. And look, if you told me that there were some guys in there who were tentative, who were happy he was back, but don't quite trust him, who have some lingering feel, I think that's all fair. I think it's all valid. And I think that is part of this that Val has to understand. And I think this is part of the process is you've got to understand you messed up. And there's some people in here that are upset. And that's okay because you're here to show why they should trust you and why they shouldn't be upset anymore. And you've got to earn that when you're in the situation that Val is in.
And I think it'll come with time when he rejoins the team and helps them to win games and start accumulating points in the standing for the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I think, too, that'll just be a better behind-the-scenes look from the team to see where he appears to be doing a little bit better.
Yeah.
And on the ice, just in the immediate, he's been out there on special teams, like on the PK and helping, pointing out little things on the PK too. And so even though he's not officially back with the team, he's helping the PK to get better. And I think he's going to have just such a noticeable impact when he's actually back in games.
Well, and he's just such a menace out there too on the kill. Like defensively, he is just so. Mark, you said he was in pretty good spirits today, yeah, Val? Yeah, very high spirits today from Val Nichushkin in the locker room. So I think he's feeling good. I think he's chipper, and I think right now he's motivated to get back and not necessarily prove people wrong, but prove to people that he can be here and he can handle himself and he can be the elite player that we knew him to become before all this really clouded the situation, muddied the waters, whatever phrase you want to use. I think right now, going based off what we could see, I would say it's only been positive. I think he's in a good mood. He looks great out there.
Oh, yeah.
He looks really good. Yesterday at practice, he was helping the goalies, and I was sitting there, I was like, God, these poor goalies. Get them someone a little bit worse. Because, he was just, he's going to the net, tipping pucks, finding rebounds. He's just, he should be a huge boost for the Avs on ice, and you just got to hope from all sides. You got to hope he's doing better.
Definitely.
Jared Bednar did confirm to me yesterday. I asked him point blank, you're expecting him in the lineup Friday? Yes. So right now, Val Nichushkin should be set to make his season debut against fellow Russian Alexander Ovechkin, who is on a heater. Continued through the weekend. He's looking to break this goal record by Christmas at this point. So a lot to look forward to for Friday, Megan. Okay, what are we at here time-wise? All right, we'll start to wind things down a little bit here. We got to talk about Gabriel Landeskog back on the ice today, ahead of practice. Didn't stay on for morning skate. Megan, when I got there, he was helping the goalies. So I think that's one thing that people got to remember. I posted a video of him out there and he was moving around the net and wrapping around and stuff like that. And I said, I thought he was moving pretty well around the net. There was one movement that he made in particular that I said, haven't seen that. But for the most part, it's light work. It's around the net. Did you see the video?
Yes.
Let me ask you this first. What did you think of what you saw from Gabe Landeskog in that, 30-second video of him helping run a goalie drill?
I didn't glean very much from the skating itself. It was the mere fact that he's back on the ice. And I guess, too, to the extent that, and he's moving. It's
right.
I think in hearing the word setback, a word Bednar was very reluctant to use because I still don't think even Bednar's assessment of what this has been, this pause for Landeskog, has been even a setback totally in his eyes. He was really cautious around even using that word, but people were quick to kind of call it a significant setback. And seeing him on the ice and moving in that way just pointed to, I don't think this is a significant setback. There is still a ways to go, just in terms of this is the first time he's been back on the ice in a while. But I didn't glean very much from the skating itself.
I didn't either. Like I said, there was one thing in particular that I'll talk about here in a second that when I saw him do that, I said, I haven't seen him do that. And that looked like something that was reactionary to me, which I thought was encouraging. It wasn't, because every time we've seen him skate, it's been very, drills and movement and stopping on a certain side, then stopping on the, what I saw him doing out there today was just him kind of just out there, just vibing. You know what I mean? And like, there was a couple movements he made that I thought were kind of hard movements that I thought were encouraging at best. But for the most part, Meghan, I did not think it was going to stir up the type of response that it did. So I'm with you. I didn't think there was a whole lot to glean from what we saw. He was back on the ice. That's encouraging to see versus him not being on the ice. And boy, oh boy, have my replies been loaded up with, you're crazy. He doesn't look good. This looks like someone who's never played before. This looks like someone whose career is over. Yeah, this looks pretty good for someone who hasn't ever skated in their life. And then we had the one that you and I were laughing at, says, I wouldn't say he's skating pretty well. I'd say he's skating all right. I was like, same thing, but okay. Really, Meghan, a lot of people took that video from today as Gabe Landeskog is never coming back. And that's just not at all what I took from seeing him on the ice today.
My takeaway from that reaction is that there is very little Gabe could have done in this video to have a different reaction.
Yep.
I think that people are reacting from a place of like wanting to expect and anticipate the worst so that they're not severely let down and disappointed.
Yep.
And so I can commiserate with that. Like, I get not wanting to be let down now. It's been 2 years of no Landeskog, and there have been moments that tease, that get excited, he's coming back, and then they've been met with pauses of his on-ice work. And so I understand the reluctance to get overly optimistic over this too. But I think there's a middle ground in the reaction to have that stays skeptical until you see otherwise, but you don't have to lean so negative either. Because I really don't think that is going to spare you any letdown that could come, because it's going to be disappointing no matter what if this doesn't end in Landeskog making a return to play hockey and being an NHL player again.
And truthfully, when I was going through the replies, which I don't often like when I can see that stuff is like overwhelmingly negative, I don't even get too far into it, because I'm like, I don't need to fill my brain up with all that. But that was how I took it as well. It was a lot of people. What is the phrase? Like, if you don't have any expectations, you're never disappointed, or something like that. And that to me was what it felt like. It was a bunch of people who were saying, I'm just planning that he's never going to come back, so that I'm not bummed if he doesn't. And then if he does, it's a pleasant surprise for me. Because really, I thought I really did. And again, it makes no difference to me. But I just thought there was going to be a lot of people that were like, oh my gosh, how exciting. Things are going well. Like, Avs are feeling good. Big win. Now that's awesome. And it was just like, oh, well, who cares? This video's what he's doing on the ice is the nail in the coffin of his career. And I even put out another one, like, just so everybody knows, this was not a Gabe Landeskog skating drill.
He's so back, guys.
Right. Like, well, and like, he wasn't even out there, at least from what we saw. He probably was earlier in the morning, but like, he was not out there doing his rehabilitation stuff. He was out there near the end of his skate. Goalies had come out and he was like, I'll help you guys out. There was a move that he did. He shot a puck and it came out on a rebound, and he turned his feet out and kind of like cut along the ice to get back to where the puck was. And he tried to like tuck it around the goaltender. And it was that reactionary move that I felt he did at what I would consider to be full speed for, what he was doing around the net. He was looking, and then when the puck went one way, he turned his feet out. Everyone has a different name for it. And he kind of
First
like
position.
right. And he moved laterally, the way that we see Cale Makar do all the time. And the fact that he was moving like that, then he stopped and kind of went back. That was the stuff to me that I said, I haven't seen him do that. Maybe he's been doing it the whole time. We don't know. But that was what stuck out to me, is it seemed a little reactionary out there and not so mechanical and not so move your legs like this, move your hips like this, keep your head square. Make sure it was just, he was out there just kind of doing his thing. And that to me was where I watched what happened and said, I think that's positive. I don't think he looks like he's ready to jump into the game tonight, but I think that's positive.
Absolutely. I mean, a guy who has just taken a pause from on ice is now back on the ice. He has to start somewhere.
Right. So, we're going to keep an eye on this. I get it. Why people are saying the things that they're saying. I get it. I would echo Gabe's sentiments to you from this offseason, Megan. Patience. I know it's hard to have patience when it's been 2 years. I get it. But that's really all you can do. It's your only option at this point is to wait. He's not hurting them salary cap wise. And again, the other thing I would remind people, he has a much better idea of where he's at than we do, as do the Avalanche and Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic. If they know he's not coming back, or if they know the timeline is moving to closer to the end of the season, they're going to use that money. They're going to use it.
For Mackenzie Blackwood.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
They're not going to let the money go to waste. It's not the same as it was the first time we went through this process where he didn't know if he was coming back in a week, a month, 2 months, whatever, let alone the Avalanche. They're all on the same page now. They all have a collective plan. They're all working through it together. If Gabe Landeskog won't be back in the regular season, they'll use the money. I will also remind everybody that, yes, he was being a little tongue-in-cheek, but when I asked Gabe Landeskog over the summer, do you have a rough estimate for when you'll be back? And he said, sometime between the beginning of September and the end of April. He said the entire regular season was the window. So I know people want to grab onto all kinds of different quotes and quips and things that people said, but Gabe Landeskog said it point blank sometime next season. We're still in that window. Do you want Chloe's thoughts on this?
I want Chloe's thoughts on Lindy, but she also told me she's excited for Friday because Val's back. So I want her quick Val thoughts.
Come on. We're going to round this show out.
Slow time.
You're coming on.
Chloe reveal.
Can't we use his $7 million? He's obviously not coming back for the playoffs. So yeah, that last comment there, that's what we were saying. If he's not coming back, they know that, and they'll get that money used if and when necessary. All right. We have a Gen Z reveal here. It's like a gender reveal. There she is. Chloe.
Yeah, to the one person that said Chloe reveal.
Yeah, they'll be back around. Here she is. This is our director of Gen Z.
Yep.
Chloe, you're excited for Friday, huh?
I am excited for Friday to see Val. I have too many phones. I don't know where to put these all. But just if you want my thoughts on it,
that's why you're here.
Yes. I think the guy's had 6 months to be upset with him, and he's back. So, I don't think there's really anything they can do or say now. I just think they have to trust that he's going to come back and do everything he can, and I'm excited.
You're right. Like I like your point of like you had 6 months to be upset. Now you need to stop being upset.
Right.
Like I get why you're upset, why you would have been upset, but you had 6 months to feel those feels. Now move on. And your other point too about like there's nothing else to do. This is your only option. It's move on or move on. And be cool with him being here, and that's really it.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
think
that's
a
not
good point.
It's not to say that they are still upset with him. It's just that I think that's the biggest thing on people's minds is like, are people accepting him now that he's back? And it's just like they have to. They obviously are because they play with him, but yeah, they have to be okay with him coming back and accept him back to the team if he's here to stay. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if he was met with tons of animosity, it just wouldn't help anything at this point. It would probably lead to poor performances just all around. So it makes a lot of sense to try and get on board the path to forgiving him.
Well, because it's like what we talked about when it all first happened. Like, okay, what are you going to trade him? What are you going to trade a top 5 winger in the league for very little because everyone's afraid that he might just bail? Like he's a good player. I would have to imagine he formally addressed the team when he first got back, right? Do you have any expectations for Friday? Like for him?
See, I mean, I am the type of person, like you were saying, I have expectations for all of these things, especially Gabe. It's just not, that's just how I am. I have to have expectations about it. For Friday, it's not that I expect a lot from him. I just, I don't think that he's coming in and he has to prove himself to be able to play. I just think that he's going to come in, and I would assume that he's going to play as hard as he did when he left.
Yeah.
So
it's, you said I actually really like this last comment here. It says winning helps everything and Val helps them win. And if he's coming in and doing that, I think people are going to, like, fans, players, anybody who's still left holding any grudges, if he comes in and plays the way he was playing, I think everyone's going to get over it pretty quick.
We're going to forget that it even happened.
Val, he did what? Oh,
What did he
yeah,
do?
yeah.
Oh.
But now who cares? And Megan and I were talking about this earlier. Like, he looks like he's ready to jump right back in on Friday. Like he doesn't look like he needs a bunch of time. He looks good to go.
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier too, was just we kind of hope that this is his realization moment, that he just spent the last 6 months doing this and that hopefully he doesn't waste it.
There's no more strikes.
Mhm.
There's no more strikes left. Like you're officially, you swing one more time and miss and you're gone. You probably lose that contract. And if it's terminated, you don't get the rest of the guaranteed money. If you enter phase 4 of the player assistance program, even the Edmonton Oilers wouldn't sign you.
That's what I'm saying. It's the last chance of last chances for the league.
Yes. Because this isn't and we've talked about it before, it's not like oh man, his teammates don't like him. He's kind of, off-putting. It's like, no, he's really good. He's just got a personal accountability problem is the nicest way that we'll put it.
Yeah.
And it's not that like, well, we can put up with the toxicity in the locker room because he'll score 40 goals. It's like, no, he might not be available to you. Like, he just may not be eligible to play. And that's very different than normal behavioral issues that teams will look the other way on. So it's like the last chance. He has to show up working just as hard as he did.
I thought his 4th chance meant that he was done for good, like the league.
So the league could rule that it's an automatic 1-year suspension. Then it's at the league and the PA's discretion. They could just say, you are not allowed back in the NHL.
I thought that's what this chance was going to be.
Truly. I mean, there's a lot of speculation that, again, he would be the first player ever to hit that mark.
So they don't even.
So they've never even had.
Yeah.
They've never even had to decide on something like this.
Well, this year, the way the things that are going with the Avs this year, I couldn't put it past anything like that to happen. So,
were you going to say something?
Well, and it's not that it's the last chance in the league. It's more so what team takes a chance on him after that point. And the other thing we talked about upstairs was, it's not that this wasn't true before, but he has a lot to play for in terms of his future now that he has a family and a little baby girl. And so that's another reason that I hope, to Chloe's point, these last 6 months has led to real help and real recognition of getting that help. And I hope that that's the case.
Me too. Girl Power Pod from Vaguely Sober. Right there.
I'm actually still JJ. So.
JJ.
Chloe, do you have any thoughts on Gabe Landeskog before we leave?
So many thoughts.
I thought you were going to say something super negative, and I was like, never mind, just end the show.
I have to be positive about Gabe because he has always been one of my favorite players. And I mean, I want this for him so bad to be able to come back and play. And I know that this is also unprecedented to have somebody come back from this type of injury. So I hope that it works out from him, and I do have expectations of him coming back this year. Just because of points like you said, if he wasn't going to come back and play, then they would use that money elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They know the best, and if he's staying and he's telling people that he's going to come back, then I have to trust that he is going to come back. And those are my thoughts.
I think that's a sneaky, very good point that feels like it should be super obvious, but they're not using the money. That should tell you that at least internally, as of right now, November 11th, the expectation is that he's going to play. Like I said, that feels like something that's that should be fairly obvious, but actually that's a good point. They haven't used it. If he wasn't coming back, they'd be using it. This is a team that is heavily depleted right now. They would not be afraid to make a move if they thought they had that money available to them.
Right.
So I do think that's a sneaky good point of that is kind of the biggest clue you can look at right now of what the Avs think internally.
Yeah, it's not as if they haven't had need to start this year. So
yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose my job on this pod.
Yeah, I'm coming for everybody's job. It's just gonna be me by myself.
The Chloe
next week.
show.
Yeah, the G is we're just gonna lose the middle part. It's gonna be Chloe Sports.
Yeah. What did you say?
Slow time.
Slow time.
Slow time. All
Yeah.
right. I think that's it.
Wow, this has been so much fun being on. How long was I on here? 5 minutes. It felt like at least an hour.
About 10. About 10 minutes. We've been begging you to come on the show ever since.
I
So
know.
thanks for finally.
So sorry to everybody that's been waiting, because I'm here now. So
Yeah. Do you want to sign us off?
What? I don't even know what you say.
I say, the person behind the glass. That's me. I'm John. It's fun.
Okay, I don't. I didn't even hear that.
We're gonna get out of here for today. Avs game tonight, so we've got everything coming to you guys from post game as quick as anybody here in town. We'll have locker room interviews for you. Jared Bednar after the game. Megan and I will be answering your guys' questions, and then we'll also, of course, be coming to you guys checking in after the second intermission. You said Thomas is back there, right?
Mhm.
Thomas behind the glass today, making sure you guys can see us, hear us, putting up all your comments, everything like that. Always doing an outstanding job. That's Meghan Angley. This is Chloe Thiel. I'm Jesse Montaño. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We will talk to you tonight. Have a good one.